Mr. Chair, we know that African nations where there's no capacity to cultivate their own industries need foreign aid to grow their essential and fundamental industry to sustain the nation and sustain the citizens of the nations. But at the same time, some of the nations, because there are monopoly industries such as diamond and oil and natural resources, there are a lack of that fundamental and very basic services for the citizens of the state, Mr. Speaker. So in this situation, we say that to save the citizens and to save the state itself for the future, by separating the risks for the future, we need this kind of motion to cultivate other fundamental industries in that state. So we propose. So I'm going to talk about three things mainly in my speech. So firstly, what is the problem of the status quo simply? And second of all, I'm going to talk about what is going to happen, especially after taking this plan, and third of all, the particular impact in this motion. But before that, the definition first. So we say, firstly, we mean development aid is all kind of aid, which includes also the financial aid and technical aid, which is going to have lecture for the local people to how to build a factory or how to run a company or something like that. So all kinds of aid, which includes. But we say development aid is not some kind of essential aid, which is food or water or something like that. This is particularly for development. And secondly, we say the African nation includes all the African nations. This is very simply. And third of all, conditioning on demonopolizing on the major industry means that if the government of that kind of African nation have no purpose or no intention to for the demonopolizing by using that kind of aid, we are not going to give the aid to that country. So this is the definition. So firstly, the problem of the status quo. Mr. Speaker, Madam Chair, so firstly, the problem of the status quo is very simple. There is no fair distribution of the foreign aid, no fair distribution of the financial aid in a kind of African state. Why is that? Because there are monopoly industries already existing in that kind of state. So what is the problem? Under the status quo, what is happening in the African nations are simple. Because there are Sierra Leone or some kind of Congo or something like that, because there are monopoly industries such as the cultivated diamonds and the cultivated oil, because because the state have a strong incentive to only to cultivate these kind of natural resources, there are lack of the other major industries to sustain the nation and to sustain the lives of the people. So under the status quo, because there are only one or only because the state, the government only have the intention to cultivate the short-term benefit for the kind of state. So government have only have the strong incentive to cultivate the diamonds or something like that. But Madam Chair, we say that more fundamentally, we say that the government have to provide essential and fundamental services to the citizen at the very first place. So at first place, they have to cultivate the food and they have to cultivate many kinds of insurance services and they have to cultivate transportation and road services. No, thank you. So in this situation, we say that there are other industries are also needed for not only about the development of their own state, but fundamentally the sustainment of the citizens' lives, Mr. Speaker. But in this situation, this is not happening right now. Yes.
After in the status quo, because the government has the control about those kinds of industry, the income is going to that country. It is the reason why government can provide those kinds of money by using those kinds of money. But after taking the proposal, the control goes to the foreign countries. It means that the government has no capacity.
I don't know why the government is going to give up the control of any industry about the diamonds or oils. Also, after taking this proposal, government can control. This is not about something like control over the industry or something like that. This is not about the problem. No, thank you. So anyway, so this is the problem. So firstly, so I say under the status quo, under the condition of the no distribution of the foreign aid, there are a lack of fundamental industry. Firstly, and secondly, there's going to happen. We have more violation of labor rights. Why is that? Because, Mr. Speaker, because there are only one industry in some kind of African states, laborers and workers nowhere to go. So in this situation, because this kind of industry know that there are no industry to escape from this kind of situation, they can cultivate and they can violate this kind of labor rights to cultivate more and more. So in this situation, labor rights labor cannot escape from this kind of harsh situation of the cultivating diamond in the mountain for the 30 years or something like that. So in this situation, the violation of labor rights is a severe problem too. So, and this is also essential to the citizens' lives. And third of all, there are no separation of the future risk. So if that kind of diamond is going to be no diamond in the future, so that kind of nation is going to lose any industry to sustain the lives of citizens. So this is a very hard problem. So we want to change that. So after taking this proposal, what is going to happen is very simple. Because now the other foreign countries have the strong incentive and a strong control over the fair distribution of the foreign aid. So then there are strong incentive for the African nation to demonopolize the one foreign nation. So what is going to happen is very simple. African nation will never abandon or give up any industry of the diamonds or oil. But in this situation, African nations have more strong incentive to cultivate other industries after taking this proposal. So this is what is going to happen after taking this proposal. So because now after taking this proposal, this government has the incentive to cultivate other industries such as the insurances, such as the medical services, and such as the food and security and many other services. So in this situation, the government is going to distribute this kind of aid fairly onto this kind of other industries too. So then the government knows that it is very essential role of the government to sustain the citizens' lives. So at this situation, the government have the incentive to cultivate other industries too after taking this proposal. So what is going to happen? So then the lack of the fundamental services is going to be better solved. Secondly, the violation of the labor rights can less likely to happen because there are other industries to go, because there are other companies to work after taking this proposal. And third of all, there are separation of the future risks also there. Because after taking this proposal, now the government can subsidize other companies, can subsidize other industries. So then other industries can also cultivate their own, grow own company or industry. So then there are other industries can maybe in the future sustain the nation. So Mr. Speaker, this proposal is going to solve all the problems of the status quo about the African nation. So we propose.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for his remarks. Next, I'd like to call upon the leader of the opposition to deliver first constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, we think if the developed country must have to give the help to the developing country, or to give the technique, or to have to change the situation for the very don't have the strength power. But if we take this round, I think this way is very, very not good for the developing country. This is because if we take this plan maybe means the developed country has a very big power, and the developing country maybe have to under there. And if you don't take the more price, the developed country will get the money to the developing country. So this is very looked down on the developing country. Also, we have the we have the relationship about the top or the bottom. So I don't think this plan is good for the status quo. So today I have two things to do. First, I will with the administration, I will talk about my point, and I have one point. First, I will with the administration. If under status quo, the labor will have the very hard situation. So they say the government should change about to this one, but this is not true. I don't think so. This is because if the government understands for government has a company, this is have a very good situation for the labor. This is because government has started to give the equal service to the people, or to give the equal situation for the labor. So this is very clearly. But please mention, if we take this from, we change the company to the people will don't have the interest for themselves, and also the check is unclear for those people, for those laborers. So the company maybe ignores the right for the labor. So I think if the government has a policy, this is the best way. So there I will understand. Second, second I want to talking about my point. I have one point. I think
Development aid comes from the developed countries, right? Why it is wrong for the developed countries, the development aid and the bargaining chip to change the situation, the bad situation, like an opening government says, in that what is happening in the context of African nations?
I think maybe we have to give the help to the developing country, but I think this way is not good for those countries. This will means that look down on the country. So second, I want to talk about my point. My point is, if we take this ground, we will promote the people to radical and to have the complaint for the government than now. So under status quo, we take this plan under the country, and so this plan under status quo, they will have the very unitary for the business about for example, the cacao or the coffee or the gold. So this is because if the government has a company, they will have the process to from the make the material, as they can make the manufacture. Third, they will sell or buy the market. They will have a very good process for the country. So under status quo, maybe they don't have the problem. But if after from we take this from, if we take this from, this from will means we will deny about the monopolizing. So if the nation hear about this problem, they will maybe thinking about the monopolize is a very bad thing. So maybe maybe they thinking about this means we will deny the monopolize, and so nation will thinking about this country takes more price, so we are very poor. So we are very the life poor. So they will have the they will have the why we are very poor. This means the country takes more price. So this will make the complaint or the economic complaint to the government, only to the government. So they will have the good belief for government. So we will lose the unity for the country. So maybe the war becomes a more and more hard things, and the nation's thinking will be the more logical. This is because this is because we think the nations and government should have the cooperation with each other, and so they can make the better country for the future. But if we take from the view of the monopolizing, we will deny the monopolizing, and also we will promote the people to thinking about the monopolizing is very bad things, and they're poor and they're economic from those things. So we think if we take the from, we don't have the good thing, and also we have harm from those things. We will promote the people to be the very radical, and we will promote about the war, about the lovers' hard situation. So I think we shouldn't take this plan. Also, the understated score is better than after plan. So this is all. Thank you for listening.
I thank the leader of the opposition, Ms. Han. Next, I'd like to call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to deliver second constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here.
Madam Speaker, what we can see in opening opposition stance, because I cannot see any stance in opening opposition. We think there is no harm by taking this proposal. They are just saying the international community will look down on the African nations. If it is really true, why is it not happening in the status quo, right? There was no any explanation about the difference between status quo and after taking this proposal, and there was no any answer to my partner's proposal of the problem in the status quo, right? There is no answer to the benefit of after plan. The incentive of distribution could be higher than in the status quo. We think there is no debate in opening opposition, right? Yeah. We think it is so crucial failure in the opening opposition stance. So I have three things to talk about to extend my partner's point and also introduce new idea in this debate. Firstly, the characteristic of African nation. This deepens the problem in the status quo. That is the problem of clientelism, that too strong bond between the state itself and rich and powerful individuals in the state. And secondly, I would like to talk about the danger of monopoly itself. Because opening opposition said this is denial of monopoly. Yes, it is dangerous that monopoly is going on the ground. And thirdly, I'd like to talk about the purpose of development aid and the after plan, why it can be fulfilled. But before that, 3 points of rebuttal. Firstly, they said the corporations would ignore laborers if we take this proposal. The one response to this is, why is it not in the status quo, right? We think, following my partner's argument, status quo is rather harsher in terms of the corporation abusing workers, because it is monopolized, right? There is no competition, and there is no room for workers to move from like abusive corporation to non-abusive corporation, because the number of corporation itself is too small, right? We think in this situation, because there is no competition, corporations can do anything to in utilizing the workforces. And second thing we heard from them is that foreign countries will look down on these developing countries. We question, why is it different in the status quo, right? If the foreign countries giving aid itself is looking down on, we think there is no difference in the status quo, right? But secondly, if foreign countries are saying that developing countries are scum, there is good check and balance system in the international committees, like criticism or those kind of things, but it is unclear because what they are saying itself is unclear in the first place. And thirdly, on to closing opposition. They said major industry would fall down. We think, firstly, that it is the major industry industries would not so much fall down, right? Because there's also global needs for that industry. No, thank you. And we don't think that all aid should be necessary for just one corporation in the country. But secondly, as I'm talking about later more deeply, we think that in the situation of monopoly, it is more important because risk management is impossible in this situation, right? The risk cannot be shared by the many corporations, and there is no safety net of one corporation fall down. So onto the first issue, like characteristic of African nations in general. So my partner told you, African nations do not have any no sufficient incentive to distribute aid to the local areas or just least developing areas, right? It is the most important characteristic is that incentive of those African nations' national industry is they're often influenced by the character of African government itself, right? African governments are influenced by the clientelism which is always existing in those nations. Because African nations are often elite-led government which overcame the colonialism in the historical issues, right? They have closed communities in the elites, and distribution of development aid is for the clients who are rich and powerful, who can in short term benefit the state, right? We think in this situation, as long as the state holds the control over the development aid, it cannot be distributed to the local areas, which cannot in short term, contribute to the state economy so much. So, on to the second issue, the danger of monopoly itself. Okay, the important danger of monopoly is that risk management is impossible in most cases. We can't confirm in the first place that big industries will definitely survive in any kind of cooperation, in any kind of competition. Because firstly, they are also competing in international markets. If their competitiveness would be overcome by other corporations in other nations. And secondly, they are also incentivized to radically invest. The more radically invest, and maybe the invest will end up in failure. Because they think that if this big deal, if this big investment succeeds, they could have more benefit in the short term. Now I'd like to take POI from the opposition side, if any. No. Okay. So these factors clearly show the possibility of fall down, even nation-led industry. On this premise, why is status quo so dangerous? It is because one fall down of monopolizing corporation will directly stop the development of the whole state.
So before we talk about the risk management in first of all, if we split those kinds of big companies in the developed country which have not have so much competitive power in the status quo, if we split those kind of things, before those kind of things, those kind of companies have no competition power in the first of all.
The thing is, there is no room in the first place for these possible SMCs to just go into the competition in the first place, right? There are many labor forces in African nations which could be utilized by these even smaller companies, right? But they are not utilized because one big company existing there is monopolizing the whole country's economy. And so, there is the one fall down, big danger is one fall down of monopolizing corporation will stop the whole economy because they are the only ones who are supporting national economic in the status quo. And many of potential corporations cannot access that industry to support the national economy. After what happens, the danger can be reduced because the risk of fall down leading to damage to the whole national economy can be reduced because even if one corporation falls down for failure or risk management, other corporations can function as the safety net of society level economy. For example, the monopolizing, unemployed workers move to another corporation, all those things. So we can see clear benefit, and we cannot see any harm in the opposition. We are very proud to propose.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for his remarks. Next, I'd like to call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to deliver a constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here.
I'm not sorry, non-speaker. We strongly believe also monopolizing is not absolutely bad. However, by this proposal, but from the Western country, such particular idea imposed to the such community, we strongly believe that it's totally bad for such people and in the living country in such, especially Africa. This is why we shouldn't any such incentivize to the people to more radical. This is why we are very proud to oppose this motion. The firstly, and in my speech, we're actually talking about how the controlling the body and such monopolizing, especially the government, is so good for such community. The second, why by introducing the market principle, it's such more than harsh competitive. It is how to work, how to create the worst situation to the people. Okay, this is one more point. Enhanced point, my partner. Before moving point, I have a rebuttal to the entire opening government side. Firstly, the entire governmental assumption is that such market principle, such competitiveness goes well. However, we don't believe so. By such privatizing such industry, because the incentive to such country is incentive to the company is only the money. This is what creates a more hardship situation to the people and a more hierarchy to exploit to the labor force. Because in order to money, it can be the only reason to create the situation or stand to the profit seeking. This is more harsh. This is the labor force after adoption, such a more hierarchy, such situation happen. On the compared to this, why such monopolizing, especially government, is so good? On that point, firstly, what incentive of the government is not only money, but also the diplomacy and such situation. Of course, such major industry, especially such very rare natural resources, such rare earth, such diamond, they utilize the other one of the way of the diplomacy. On this point, it's a very such of diplomacy. In such situation, such country, even the poor country, they can be the more high situation, can be the more high status in such diplomacy. This is why it's that we can create more. And better diplomacy by utilizing the such they can be the more high status in the diplomacy they can say the more voice to such Western country to the more such advanced country. This is the more the better in the situation trade we can more get the benefit that comes from the advanced country. Of course, such government can distribute such money just get benefit to the citizen. This is the more good situation. Of course, in this situation, the incentive of the monopolizing is not only the money of such incentive for the way of the diplomacy and so on. The second and more importantly, compared with such privatizing, the government has more moral duty to the citizen, right? Because the government is such a unique organization, the one of the biggest organization in such country. In this sense, compared with such company, they have the moral duty of government have to hear the voice of the citizen. The more hierarchy to connected about the production as a citizen. This is what the exploitation, the risk as minimized in the such governmental monopolizing. This is why the status quo is more better for the citizen and as a level of the government, especially in terms of diplomacy and international community. This is why status quo is totally fine before we add the opening.
So your entire assumption is that under the status quo, the monopoly industry have no incentive for the money, but they have incentive for the moral duty or other kind of principles. But why do you think that monopolizing company or industry have no incentive for the money or something like that? Why do you think after taking this plan, it's going to be more harsher?
We strongly believe that. Because of the competitiveness, because of competence, such other way, of course, we expressed it that not only such money, but also such other way. The industry, this is utilizing in such by the government because the government has incentive has an incentive to make an effort to such trade and negotiate with other country in order to smooth negotiation, so they can get very unique way such natural resource. They have incentive to utilize this. However, in the competition, in the market, that each company never thinking about government, never thinking about this This is why such incentive will be never try to only pursue the money. This is why it's actually pronounced so harsh. This is before. Sorry, let's move on our point. The first thing, my partner pointed that this proposal is in order to stop to such a monopolizing government to give the financial aid or technical aid. We strongly believe this is a particular idea of the by the government, especially international community in Western country. By this proposal, as a citizen, as a rebel, as a believe that why, of course, such monopolizing is absolutely bad. We are exploited by such one side of the government. This is the more important to incredibility of the such government side. This is creates the more harsher, more feel antipathy to the people. Sorry, more creative antipathy to the government. This is what we give. Unnecessary to radicalize to the people. They have the more antipathy toward the government. Because that after adoption, they create the more conflict between the people and the government. This is so bad because the more liar that comes from the citizen will be happen in this situation. It's more chaos situation happen.
Last chance.
Sorry. Sorry, this is why in effective adoption, more people will be radicalized. And secondly, of course, by taking proposal and second, by taking proposal and such government gets the pressure that comes from the international community and the citizens in order to privatize such sector. This is what I strive for adoption. So because of such a market principle, such one sector will be collapsed. For example, and such in such and such water sector, because of privatizing the water sector was destroyed. This is because by introducing the market principle, by introducing the only pressure the money, this is what such more the corruption will happen. Of course, such by corrupting the essential one, such money will not be distributed to each citizen. First, this is what so bad for the citizen. The first way, my point is the first way, in order to prevent the conflict in that unnecessary and incredibility of the citizen toward the government, we shouldn't take it for the second way, in order to stop the corruption of the many unique sector of the government and the company, we shouldn't take the further. They are practicing proposals.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition, for his remarks. Next, I'd like to call upon the member of the government to continue the affirmative case here.
Chair, we don't see any harm from the opening opposition. They're saying that the diplomacy power goes this, or after taking this proposal, the liberals are going to the bad situation or something like that. But these kinds of things never happened, and I'll explain that later. And the opening government said after taking this proposal, strong incentive for government to fair distribution, and they did very great job. But I explained furthermore about it. So our stance is we believe that development aid should be used in an efficient way. And after taking this proposal, because competition among companies will happen, so this competition will lead to the countries to develop. So we are very proud to propose this motion. And I have two extensions, but before that, let me refute the previous speaker has said. I have one extension. They said, he said, that after taking this proposal, because the diplomacy powers go less or something like that, but it is not true, because even after taking this proposal, the country export the products to the other countries, so the country status is not changed, so it is not true. So let me explain my extensions. So no, thank you. So firstly, how this proposal make African nations develop in terms of incentive to compete. So under the status quo, African nation cannot develop because because industry will not develop because the monopolization. Why? Because there's no incentive to make effort because the government monopolizes the industries. So why? Because there's no competition. Because if this industry go bad, we can help by tax, and because the company have the government monopolize the labor. Of course, they gathered because no competition. So why this has happened? Because the aid, the development aid for government is monopolized, and aid are not used efficiently because we cannot supervise how aid is used or something like that. But after taking this proposal, African nation can develop because industry is developed because the product's quality or productivity will be higher because there's incentive to make effort because of competition and no thank you, the tax, the companies cannot rely on the government, and the labor are not necessarily gathered. And the opening opposition said, no thank you. Under the status quo, after taking this proposal, labor situation will go bad, but we don't think so, because under the status quo, the labor situation, labor environment is already bad, and the opening government said that the violation will not occur, but and we think that it is because the company want to get good labor, because there are a lot of companies compete to get good labor. So because of this competition, the violation of labor will not occur even after taking this proposal. And so because a lot of companies compete with each other and these companies make effort to produce good quality products. So as a whole, the countries will develop. So it is good for the development of African nation. So let me explain my second extensions. So the secondly, the opening government said that after taking this proposal, the fall down will occur because of radical investment, and we want to add the one analysis to that, and so after under status quo, the corruption, because the government monopolizes the industry, the corruption between country and company will occur, and because the government support this one industry, so because of that, the development aid is used to the kind of industry. So under the status quo, the development aid not equally distribute the citizens. So it is so harmful under the status quo. So for those reasons, we are very proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
I thank the member of the government for her speech. Next, I would like to call upon the member of the opposition to deliver a constructive speech within 7 minutes. Here.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and hello, ladies and gentlemen. Even if there now exist a company, the more large company, that will more decline. The other company will be more decline. So the many company will nothing about the company. So it is not so good. So we want to uphold this motion. Firstly, I like to refute their argument. And then I like to show our extension. First, the refutation. I want to refute for opposing government. And they said, there will be nothing, their incentive to develop. But under status quo, the major industry is uniquely route to get money. So as development as much. So that they can get money. So it means they have incentive to develop their company. So for example, and Samsung in Korea and Mitsubishi in Japan is monopolizing under government. Under the government prosecution, so it protection. So it is no harm. And second is aid is only used to the major industry. Oh yes. Sorry. Yes, and we need to do that. So keep about it. So then let me move on to our extension. And then our extension is the extension. And what is the monopoly? So monopoly is the sole word for in the countries. So because the government, the company to give aid from government and to protect the companies, so, and the companies too. The many students use about it. So the government can get benefit. So it is so good for a country. So And that is because to use the benefit, the country is the country is developing undersea school. So the developing country. And what is the major industries? So it means it is the only way to get to make the profit. And so it is the benefit for government. So I told you before. So for example, the Middle East, the oils of the Middle East, it is the only export things. So they can get the benefit from about it. And that is because the developing country is more weak, like the budget and more technical. To compare to the other country. So that is because the developing country is not the like country is developing on the way. After taking the proposal, the developing country is demonopolizing the company is more and more weak So there each country's the money and technique is more declined. So it is not so good. It means why is more to less that there's money or techniques? That is because there's competition about it is not so there's technique and so like that is so weak. If the 8 for the company, so it means there's economy is more worse. So the other countries company to come and they buy about their company. So it means the control right has the control right about the major industry has the other countries. So other country has their control right for about the major industry. So it means the benefit about the benefit about the country. The benefit about the company is not can take the national government the benefit is to give the other countries. So to see it for long term, it is so harmful for them. That because the national economy will be more worse. So that because the other country control about the economy, and so it means that the nation it depend on the other countries. So we think the understated score is more better. So what I told you today is that if taking a proposal, the many countries more nothing because the other countries buy and to control about the nations company. So and the national government can get the benefit. The benefit go to the other country. So we saw that is so worse that is worse after taking proposal. So from this reason, I strongly oppose this motion. Thank you for listening.
I thank the member of the opposition for her speech. Next, I'd like to call upon the government whip to summarize today's debate here.
want the country to develop, right? That is the reason why we're giving a development aid to those countries. But we want the country to become a country that uses the development aid more in an efficient way. We don't want those countries to use the money in more kind of like a waste way. Opposition didn't really tell us why, as a status quo, development aid is used in a proper way. Why is that it's actually contributing to the government's benefit, or to the citizens' benefit. Moreover, they have never told us why. Didn't really tell us why this development aid have anything to do about the argument. Moreover, they didn't really tell us why actually the harm is going to happen by just actually implement this policy. I'm going to talk about two things in my speech. Mr. Speaker, well, I'm going to look at the status quo, right, in a very simplistic way. What is actually the situation with the status quo? Is it very horrible, like the government says, or is it not very horrible, like an opposition? Well, they didn't really mention about it, but I'm going to talk about it. Second, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen after the proposal. Is it really going to develop? And I'll also deal with the harms that the opposition has given us. For example, like an example of Bolivia, or example like a multinational company. So, let's start the first point, right? Well, from the entire government bench, we've been telling you that, well, because it is a monopolistic, it has very small efficiency. That's what the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister have told them in this debate. We've been telling you that, one, violation of the work rights, for example, those kind of problems happens, right? Because it's a monopolistic company, they don't have any incentive to actually raise all this security, or raise all this efficiency, or raise all this working environment. Because it is a major industry, we agree, and it's important, and it's a very large labor forces. Everyone comes here, and that means if it was monopolized, that one company does not have any incentive to actually fix all these problems. They have never dealt on this point, right? Then we also have told you that from the closing government, one, well, because they have a strong connection because we have told you that one, because there's no competition on these cases, even so this is another analysis, right? Because of monopolistics. And moreover, they have told us that one opening government said, well, there's a huge possibility that because it's a big industry, if it fails, it's gonna be a very problem or so forth, right? Well, we have mentioned another cases that is also likely to happen in these cases. Because it has a strong connection with the government, and sometimes we can see in the country, because we can actually say that in many African nations, government does not have a stable power. Maybe it might be corrupted, it might become dictatorial, and it can have a strong connection with these monopolist companies. In the cases, if the government thinks that if we have to actually save this one big company, which the government actually owns, they're going to actually use all this huge money into those companies and actually save. Because that already happens, because that is a monopolist company, and that has a strong connection with the government. Because usually when these companies are nationalized company, right? This is a situation that is happening now. And this is the reason why we're telling you, when we think about this more about the closing government, we've been telling you that when you think about the development aid, even if the government uses development aid, we're not quite sure how that money is going to be used when the company are so strongly connected with the government. Moreover, because the company does not have a very small incentive to actually progress the company itself, even if the development aid is used, that money is going to be used in an efficient way. That means the development aid is used in the current situation in a very inefficient way because of the lack of incentive to actually make the situation better for that company. We didn't really think there was any engagement on these cases. Moreover, this is where the opposition come up in here and said, look, monopolization is something brilliant, right? Look at Samsung, right? Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not very sure where in the history where the Samsung was monopolized on this case, right? I think that was a private company. And moreover, look at the company like LG and so forth, right? The other companies. When Mitsubishi was monopolized, I think it was before World War II. I'm not really quite sure of the history, but on the status quo, we think that is not the case, Mr. Speaker. So we can clearly see about the status quo, right? There is a huge problem, and development aid, especially with the closing government, it is not used in an efficient way. It is a wasted. Let's move on to what's going to happen as the consequences in the second criteria. Okay, let's look at their harms, right? Well, firstly, they have told us, I think it was a distributive opposition, telling, look at Bolivia, right? When the water was like, how do you say it? So it was given to the other company, sorry, I cannot find the word. So this water price has risen so much, and the citizens have made this riot and so forth, right? I think, if my memory is true, I think the core reasons that happened is because the company from the other foreign countries have actually dominated the market and actually set the price by the rules, right? That was the reason the price of the water became so much, because no competition, because only the one, I think it was the multinational companies, have actually dominated. That is exactly the cases that are happening on the status quo, right? Because government only monopolizes the market and does not have any incentive to lower the prices and still keep the high prices, because that is a huge industry that they have to rely on, and then other people who have to buy, who are actually relying on that, is getting harmed. That is an example that shows our cases. Second, this is where a member of the opposition come up in here and said, well, look, MNC is going to dominate these things, right? Well, firstly, Mr. Speaker, if you don't like the multinational companies, you don't have to let these multinational companies come inside, right? Because the purpose of our policy is, we have to controlling government. We want the companies inside these countries to actually become one of the, to grow inside of the country, right? For the country to flourish, right? We are okay for those companies inside of the country to actually make like 10 companies and compete together, right? If they don't make a multinational companies, government should not make a contract, because if the government in the country say, I don't want any multinational company to come inside, they can actually refuse those people coming inside. If the closing opposition is willing to say, you know, there's a power imbalance, right? Well, if there's a power imbalance, I think multinational company will come in the status quo anyway, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at our harms that we've been telling you. Okay, we've been telling you from especially the open government have told us that, well, this money is going to be distributed in another way, right? We have told you about the larger scale. We've been telling you how the country itself is going to develop. We have to both sides agree. Oh, you have a device. So, we have both sides agree that it is important to this is a major industry, and this is the major industry that actually supports the country itself. And we recognize, Madam Speaker, that we have, by actually improving the situation of this major industries, that means it's going to be a greater benefit to this country itself. We've been telling about the market mechanism, how actually by allowing lots of the companies inside the major industry come in and compete together. We have also talked about this labor workforce, right? Because they have told us, right, labor force will go back, right? Madam Speaker. But we've been telling you that the market mechanism does not do that, because labor environment is also going to be one of the criteria for those one companies to actually call for the good people to come inside and work in their cases. We think that is going to be, situation of the work environment is going to be far better compared to the status quo, which is already horrible in this current situation. We've been telling you that because these companies will compete and make more efficient, and that is where development aid is going to become efficient, because that development aid is going to be used in a more efficient way, because those people have an incentive to actually utilize that money in a better way to improve. And we think we are the side who have been telling you that how the country will develop. That's why we propose.
I thank the government whip. Next, I'd like to call upon the opposition whip to close this round here.
Ladies and gentlemen, well, all teams in this debate will agree with those kinds of developing countries have not so much capacity to support all the companies to have enough competitive power to compete with the multinational companies or foreign countries companies. But the thing, so we think it is the reason why we are opposing this motion. Well, because the government have a limited, and country itself have a limited budget and limited power, so we have to support in the major industry uniquely to have the minimum competitive power to compete with the foreign countries and foreign companies. It is the reason why we are opposing in today's debate. What today's government style doing here is that using those kinds of, giving the short-term benefit to those kinds of companies and make the easiest situation to go into the country and support themselves foreign country to win competition in those kinds of developing countries, so they get so much benefit in those kinds of countries. What this government side wants to talk about is completely immoral in this debate. It is the reason why basically we are opposing this motion. Having said that, I'll move on to our clashes. Basically, class is one thing, right? Sit down. We all have to talk about in this debate is development of those kinds of countries in the long term, not only about short term. Sit down. Today's opposition governments want to talk about that the aid is not distributed to the all industry or in the social services and so on. And closing government also talk about those kinds of things. But the thing is, first of all, we already told you in my introduction that our stance is we have to gather the power and gather the aid and use those kinds of money to the major industry, which is uniquely need in those kinds of countries, and one unique way to gather money in international competition and international society. Sit down. So we have to grow up those kinds of countries by giving and supporting those kinds of things. By using those kinds of money uniquely to those kinds of major industries. It is the reason why we have to not distribute those kinds of aids and we have to support those kinds of major industry uniquely. And European governments come up and say that about the risk management and so on. But the thing is, first of all, what they are talking about is about developed countries, companies which have enough capacity to split up their company. Even in the developed countries cases, even if they split up those kinds of companies, big companies, and become the small companies, they have enough minimum competitive power to compete with other companies because they have enough competitive power. But the thing is, developing countries cases, they don't have, even if they are major company in that country, they have to compare with other foreign countries which have big capacity to compare. They have just a minimum competitive power. So if we split those kinds of companies and want to do risk management and so on, they don't have any minimum competitive power after we split those kinds of things. So before we talk about the risk management itself and so on, this kind of company will fall down. All of this kind of company will fall down. We will explain more deeply. And closing government come here and said, because they have low incentive, because they are monopolized in the status quo, they are not developing now. It is the reason why they are not developing now. First of all, we think that there's this kind of it is completely generic. They are talking about the nationalize or privatize and so on. And second one, member of government clearly told you, sit down, the money itself, those kind of major industry is a unique way for those kinds of country to gather money from the international competition. It is the reason why in the status quo, government are giving the protection to those kind of major industry and giving the most of their development aids and help those kind of country to grow up in their country. It is so the major industry have the protection by the government. It is the reason why closing government come up in here and say there is a strong relationship between the government and the company itself. What they're saying is supporting our cases, right? Because they have strong relationship with government and the company. The company can grow up company can grow up by having the minimum competitive power. Sit down. It is the reason why supporting that. Okay, having said that, I'll move on to our
Development aid can definitely help minor corporations to develop as well. Given that the monopolizing corporation doesn't necessarily trickle down their profit on the ground, why do you think it is good not to give opportunity to people?
Because we cut this kind of government protection, for example, aid or this kind of government budget to use this kind of majority industry. This kind of monopolized industry cannot survive in the competition. It is the reason why government are giving protection and getting the relationship what today's closing government want to say. Right? So there is no problem set down. Okay, because the closing government want to say about competition, my member government clearly classified it by talking about the minimum competition power in those kind of developing countries companies, right? Because the economic control of in the status quo of the African country, because they are monopolized and they have the clear relationship between the government and the company, those kind of major industries, monopolized company, they are supported because the government has the protection. Those kind of majority industry are monopolized. Monopoly company can alive and win the competition even in the industry with another company in foreign countries. So uniqueness on here is that almost this kind of majority industry and monopolized company is the almost only one route for the government and those kinds of country sit down to gather the government budget in the status quo. It is a unique way, right? So it is important to keep those kinds of routes for those kind of company because it is their lifeline itself. But in the status quo, by provide the government and all the industry and all kinds of country itself are supporting those kinds of monopolized country. It is the reason why those kinds of majority company have the minimum competitive power because they can gather sustainably their budget to develop those kind of technology or develop their power and so on by monopolize the market in themselves country and gather money from their citizens. It's the reason why they have sustained power and because the government are supporting them by giving the developing aid gather developing aid and giving to them by supporting them. It is the reason why they have the enough budget to compete with another country and keeping development. It is the reason why Korea have accepting this kind of monopolization of the Samsung in 1970s. And it is why before the World War II and World War II era, the Japanese government is already supporting the Mitsubishi company to monopolize this kind of thing. It is the reason why we have the protection and there is a relationship between the government and the company. But after taking the proposal, what happened? My grandparents already told you that because this kind of company, majority company, have lose their budget and lose their government protection comes from the government. They have no minimum competition power to compete with other countries. It is very dangerous for a company. It is very dangerous for this kind of citizen. Thank you.